Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I muted you. Okay.
Okay, I'm just making sure that that we look good on Facebook. You know, I got to make sure that you look good every time I bring you on.
Shit. I'm going to be 82 in a couple of weeks, so I'm not looking that great.
Oh man, are you kidding? You're timeless.
Shit.
You're timeless. All right. Well, welcome back to the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues, my good friend. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there.
82 and all.
And we're finally getting our shit together a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So I apologize everybody who's catching
You
us.
see me okay?
Yeah, you're good. You're good. All right. So to everybody who's joining us on Facebook, for some reason on Be Life wouldn't connect, Mr. Tackett, and then it was all messed up on YouTube and what have you. So, all right, enough of the formalities. You, Mr. Tackett, suggested to me that I should start asking you, I should start off by asking you who influenced you on your journey. So let's get the ball rolling and start with that.
The first thing was I had judo when I was like 13 at the YMCA in Redlands for about a half a year, and then the guy moved, so I got interested in martial arts. I was interested in when I was a kid in World War II combatives. I got World War II combatives books and kind of studied those. And then when I joined the service and ended up in Taiwan, I ended up being able to take martial arts there. I was at a service club. Kind of in an air base up on a hill mountain. I was listening to Chinese broadcasts and stuff. It was a national security agency base. And the guy that ran the gym was working with Mr. Chun. He was my judo and karate martial arts, kung fu, actually my Wushu teacher. Mm-hmm. And from him, I ended up with 3 instructors. My wife was working days. I was working swings. She was teaching school. So I had all day. So I was taking about 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. When I got back from the service, I was up at school, but nobody knew what Kung Fu was. So I called it the School of Chinese Karate to help put me through college, right? Besides the GI Bill. And I met Bob Chapman, came in, he was my first student. So we started working out and training. And finally, after a while, we said, I want to do something different. Let's continue with the Tai Chi thing. So we went down to a Tai Chi school in LA somewhere, and the guy said, I've already had Tai Chi, so I showed him my Tai Chi, and he said it was a Yang style or something. Mm-hmm. And he said he would take me on for a student. So when I left, Bob and I left, we said, okay, we'll see you next week. This other guy follows me out. It was Dan Lee. And he said, do you know Danny Son? Have you heard of Jeet Kune Do? And I said, yeah, I saw Bruce Lee in the 67 International at my fighters there. We used to go to the Ed Parker's every year. Mm-hmm. And I knew Dan from that. In fact, the first time I went to Ed Parker's, he had me show a bunch of stuff. And then Dan and I and Jim Grenwald and Steve Golda went out to dinner. So I knew Dan and I talked to him regularly. He was just Dan. And so this guy was Dan Lee. And he said, here's Bruce Lee or Danny Inosanto's phone number. Bruce is now making a movie in Hong Kong. So I called Dan. He said, yeah, come on in. And so anyway, I started with the Backyard Group. Right. So Dan Inosanto was my major influence in Jeet Kune Do. I worked with him a lot, and I worked with him a lot on Saturdays. I would go down on Saturdays and privately do that. And the night I was there was like about 12 guys. There was the Haber brothers, who were really bad. There was Bremer and Poteet and Pastillo and Dan Lee and Tony Luna and all the guys there, Pete Jacobs. So I sparred Danny Lee and Bremer the first night, and they were a handful, both of them. Yeah. They were the toughest guys there, frankly. Yeah, those 2 guys. And Bremer doesn't look it, but he was a tough dude. So I ended up really, really digging it, and from there it continued on. So he was my influence. I'll get back to Bremer and Burt later, but other influences have been Lloyd Kennedy. Lloyd Kennedy came around our garage. He was really into showing us some grappling stuff. Didn't charge anything. So we weren't charging anything anyway in the garage.
Mhm.
He shared our grappling. He had an interesting thing. He said, "Listen, if I'm showing you something, tell me where I could be vulnerable because I want to know here and not on the street." So we had that open mind.
Right.
Then I did a seminar for a guy in Austin, Texas, and it was a combined seminars with Jim McCann and Nicholas Hughes. And from Jim McCann, he became one of our instructors. He studied with me, and he was a really, really good grappling guy. So I got a lot of kind of making grappling work for us. And then Nicholas Hughes was there. And Nicholas Hughes, remember that? Did you see that thing where I did the verbal jujitsu?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was two of those. I did those twice at
Paulson's.
Paul Paulson's studio.
Yeah.
The first one, I said, this was shown me by Nicholas Hughes. And the second time, I forgot to say his name. And that's the one that went all out because the martial arts group, the Israeli group, whatever the hell that's called, they just
Krav
put it
Maga.
all everywhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
Krav Maga, they put it everywhere. But they took off Paulson's symbol. So the whole, yeah, so that was kind of pissed Eric off because it has 11 million views now.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, Nicholas Hughes taught me that, and then he did the seminar. He also shows some really good combat drills, the difference between the ring and the street. And it was excellent guy. I regularly recommend him. He's in Nashville, North Carolina, and he's a really good guy. Big old tall 6'9" guy, ex French Foreign Legion, knows his stuff. But then Bremer, when Bremer retired from being a crane operator, he showed up, started coming to my garage. And then Burt Poe, those two are the biggest influences for me in terms of modern, after Dan, because Bremer really kind of focused me on what the essence of Jeet Kune Do was, what the principles were. He only brought 14 things with him that I didn't know. And those 14 things really changed the way we approach everything. The things he had learned from Bruce. And that was that. And then Burt Poe, he was kind of like walking death, Burt was. First, I have to tell you how I first heard of Burt, saw him.
Yeah, because a lot of people, I don't know how many of the questions that were sent in you saw, but Burt Poe was like in all of them. Everybody wanted to know about it.
Yeah, well, Burt wasn't his real name. I found out later. I don't know. Something happened in Oregon. He had to get out of the state. Anyway, we had I'd ever see American Graffiti where you had to drive in and people would, park your car. The waitress would come out and okay, they had one of those in Redlands. I was actually out of college. I was going to college and teaching martial arts, and there's two tables outside there, and there's about 4 or 5 Hell's Angels sitting on one table, and this cowboy sitting on the other table, and their Hell's Angels are telling jokes, and I could hear it, and Burt starts laughing, and they say, "Hey, cowboy, you think so funny? Why don't you tell us a joke? I got to clean this up a bit, okay?" So Burt says, "Okay, there's a guy walking down the highway in a Hell's Angels jacket, and a truck driver picks him up. Need a ride? Yeah." So go along, the truck driver's there, they're driving along, and finally the truck driver says, "How about some oral sex?" And the guy says, "Hey, I'm not a real Hell's Angel, let's borrow this jacket."
Okay.
At him.
So there's 6 of them and him, and he tells that joke.
Yeah. And they started laughing.
Okay, good.
But he had, if you ever see Burt, he had the piercing eyes. He could look at you. We went to a boxing match in Colton, and across the street was kind of a little convenience store. So we're doing the boxing matches and stuff, and Burt goes across the street. We go outside. He goes across the street to buy a pack of cigarettes. There's about 7 Mexican gang guys there. He's crossing the street and they go, "Hey, old man, what you doing in our neighborhood?" He stopped, stared at him and said, "I'm here to kick ass." That was all he said. And it just stopped it right there.
Yeah.
So he ended up, then he had bartending at a place called Shakey's in Redlands, California, right where I grew up. And he was a bartender there. And that's where two guys came in. They were the Charles brothers, and they started Cheers, and they based Cheers on this place that
No
showed
way.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I went to high school with Joan Baez and Bunny Cabral. They were a couple of girls. Bunny was Burt Poe, and Joan Baez, you know, the singer.
Yeah.
She claims to be, you know, this poor Mexican chick and everything. Her father was a full professor at the University of Redlands, and her mother was from Scottish. So, you know, she had these two sisters, Mimi and Pauline. Pauline was blonde. Bunny was Burt Poe, just dirt poor. And in her little biography thing, she mentions how Bunny had stuff that she didn't have, just so full of crap. Anyway,
Yeah.
Bunny ended up marrying Burt.
Okay.
So I started knowing him from them together there. So one time I get a phone call from Bunny, and she said, "Look, Burt's in trouble, and they're trying to get him for maiming, and we want to get an expert witness because what happened? I'll tell you what happened. I learned it from Burt. He was working for a thrifty. He had been a sheriff's department, but he had some problems with the way he acted. Certain ways he did. Like one time, a guy attacked him with a crowbar. He knocked him out, broke his arm, knocked him out, pulled his pants down, and shoved the crowbar up his ass. For some reason, that didn't go over very well. So he didn't have a job anymore. And he told the guy, "Don't ever come at me with anything you can't fit up your ass." So he ended up working for 50 drugstores in Palm Springs, and he goes to there's 4 guys in a car, and they had stolen something from the store. That was when you actually could stop somebody from stealing something. So he went out. He kind of said, "What are you guys doing?" He's on the back window there, and they took off. And one guy pulls a gun, so he breaks his arm, and he takes his eyeball out and throws it on the dashboard. And then he bails out. He gets shot right here, and it broke his neck. So if you see old pictures of Burt, he was very muscular, very husky. He lost a lot of that from the broken neck, but he was still stronger than heck. But so they were trying to get him for maiming this guy. All right. So I said, yeah, I would testify, but they finally dropped the charges on Burt, you know, because what the guy did, you know, pull a gun on him, and the guy in the front seat shot him. Yeah. That's one of the Burt stories. He was something else. He was really the real thing, you know. And Bremer was the real thing too. Lots of funny Bremer stories. His attitude was one thing that was really interesting. We started doing 2 hours of JKD and then about a half hour of a scream up. Dan called it a scream up.
And, this is in the backyard. Yeah,
in the backyard. We're doing we're doing Serrata. We get through all the numbers and stuff. We get to the 12th one, and it's where you go like this.
Right.
And Dan says, "That's Bremer said, what's that for?" He said, "Going through Japanese armor." He said, "Oh, okay." That was his last Eskrima lesson.
Right.
So he would go to Pete Jacobs, and they would just work on making it effective. He started doing some Largamano stuff because he said, "I'm not going to do anything that I can't use.
Yeah. It's
a waste of time."
Yeah.
So in fact, I showed him a very, very famous Ceylon guy doing a seminar, about maybe an hour. And I say, "Hey, Bob, watch this." He sat there for a whole hour. And I said, "What'd you think?" And he said, "Never in my entire life have I seen so much I didn't want to learn." That was just his attitude. His attitude is that it had to work. It had to work. Right. It had to work. He had Burt Bremer learned a lot from Bruce on making sure that you're not offering something. What are you offering him? You know, and it just learned to hurt him with the flick, the dragon story, all that stuff I got from Bremer. Yeah. And I went to first night he showed up in the garage. He said, "Well, show me what you've been working on." So working on the empty hand collie. Also, the Lucky Luke guy was a very influence me on the Panatukan stuff. Anyway, I show him where I said throw him a hook. So I went to throw a hook. I went with the upper elbow, and all of a sudden I feel a big pain in my kidney, and he punched me without never seeing it before in his life. Then I showed him where you wedge for trapping, and as soon as I did that, he lops out and hit me. Yeah. He hadn't done anything for maybe a couple of years. just got off the couch, came down, and it had that in him.
How did he hear about you guys, and what propelled him to get off the couch and come see you?
Well, because I knew him from the backyard.
Uh-huh. But wait, he had been inactive for a couple of years?
No, he was working with Bruce. And then he was inactive. Once Bruce went to Hong Kong, he was inactive. He was just working. He would go to Pete Jacobs' place.
Yeah.
He knew where I was. I was teaching. I see him every now and then. He lived in the high desert. He moved from Van Gabriel to the high desert.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another bird story was they went to Dan's and he had some jerky. And Dan goes, "Oh, this is really good jerky. What is it?" Bert goes, "Dog."
Yeah. Yeah. I don't see that going over quite well with Inasano. What did Bremer ever say, like, this is the most important thing that I got from Bruce Lee?
Yeah, there was a couple of those things. One was, well, actually, it was the hammer principle, the leg obstruction were those two most important things.
Mm-hmm.
Look at, I never learned those from Dan, but if you look at the book that John Little put together, Jeet Kune Do, it's in Bruce Lee's lesson plans.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those two things, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're so crucially important, but if people don't understand them, really, either
right,
one.
yeah. The hammer principle was the other thing that a lot of people had questions about. You know,
okay. Hold a foil in your hand, like
right.
a foil. Okay.
Yeah.
Thrust with it. See how it goes down?
Mm-hmm.
That's the hammer.
Yeah.
So in other words, I put my hammer, I put my fist even with your nose.
Right.
And if I drop it, I'm getting closer to you, and I got to a blind spot. And as soon as I drop it and I go with it, it goes directly to your nose.
I mean, I remember the first time you hit me with that in Palm Beach, and I was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, but here's the whole point of it, though. The whole point of it is that when I'm doing it to you, and I'm unsuccessful, you tell me what you see. How come I didn't hit you? Well, your tension here, you do this there. So you're doing all of that, and then the guy is seeing you. So both sides are learning. One's learning how to get rid of all this preparation. The other one's learning how to see it. So after a while, you can almost sense it.
Yeah. Now,
Bob said he worked with Bruce, and he was really concentrating on not letting Bruce hit him.
Mm-hmm.
So he says they start moving, and they must have been 2 minutes. And Burt, Bruce is moving around, and Bremer said, "I'm concentrating. All of a sudden, I thought of something else, and bam, he hit me." Did you get me? He said, "Well, I felt for a moment you weren't with me."
Right.
And I tend to be able to sense that.
Yeah. Now, that type of thing, that type of training and what have you, fits, I would say, perfectly into the small group setting in your garage in the Redlands.
The only way you can do it.
Right? So, okay, so what are people supposed to do then instead on a seminar?
Right.
What do they do on a seminar then if they're calling it a Jeet Kune Do seminar?
Yeah, I don't know. That's the problem. The problem is you have to. I'll give you a typical thing.
Yeah.
I'll use a stream as an example. We were doing Simbrata, moving around and doing that box hit, you hit.
Mm-hmm.
You know how you have the box pattern?
Yeah.
There was no box pattern.
Right.
When I was in the backyard, you were just doing it.
Yeah.
I hit, you block, you hit. All of a sudden you get in there 200, 100 people. How do you teach Simbrata? You have to make it a pattern.
You make up a lot of stuff for what Cass calls the seminar presentation system.
Right. Focus gloves. You never focus glove where you had these structured focus glove. You had one, and you okay, we're gonna do one glove, so boom. Then you go, okay, add the hook, boom, add the back fist, boom, and then you would just freelance it, boom. And you didn't know what the hell the guy was going to be flashing you.
Right.
But when you first start learning, you learn to punch on the focus glove. You don't do it that way, but that's how that works.
Yeah.
I learned an awful lot also from Bruce's notes that we have all the nucleus people have all of his notes. The thing that really changed my understanding of it was the time commitment theory. I don't know if you read that in the book or not.
Refresh my memory.
The time commitment theory is how I base my teaching now. Once I figured it out.
Making use of the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule?
No.
Oh, okay.
What it is anytime you do a movement, a hit, a kick, a punch, you're devoting a certain amount of time.
Okay.
From sending it out, hitting it, and retracting the tool. That's the amount of time. Now, the more time you use, the less the more time your opponent has to counter you.
Right.
So you look at things in terms of time. In fact, a snappy hit and a heavy hit are different. For example, a front-legged hook kick to a rear-legged tie kick. The tie kick has a little bit longer recovery than the front-legged hook kick, but it has more power.
Yeah.
So the first time Bremer saw it, he said, "That's a great tool, but not on the first move." If you understand what he's talking about there.
Yeah.
So that's a follow-up move. So in other words, the Xing Yi is a heavy palm hit, which means that I have to make sure I make the target, and I so that he can't counter me, because it's slower hit is the slower recovery because you're hitting through the target. So the 1-inch punch, or the not the 1 inch, but the straight lead punch is only a 1 to 2 inch penetration on the target. Okay, that's what I learned from Bremer. That means that it snaps at the elbow. Snaps at the elbow and it snaps back. Now, if I hit a 6-inch penetration, it's slower. It goes through the target. It goes back. So that becomes a heavy hit.
Yeah.
You see the difference in the two things there. So the point of it is the straight lead punch, because it's a powerful punch, it goes further and maybe snaps it. You never do it on the first move. In fact, we don't attack.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did a whole class in I think it was in somewhere in New York City, Queens. I think it was in Queens. The first day I taught faking and fading and all the different attacks like that, all the feints and fakes and all of that kind of stuff. The next day I told them I wasn't any good. Because if you know Jeet Kune Do,
right,
if you feint or you fake, you get hit.
You get hit, right? Yeah, you don't fall for it.
Leg obstruction, boom, leg obstruction hits you.
Yeah,
leg obstruction is really good, but in terms of time limit, in terms of time, is that if I do a side kick, shin knee side kick as an attack, hit your leg and shin and then come down with a finger jab, it takes a little bit more time than if I do a leg obstruction and trap the hands and come down. They're both excellent, but it's Bremer was more of a move in and hit. Ted Wong was more of a mover. Bremer didn't like the moving around that much, but I think you need both. That's why I was lucky that Vince Raimondi joined our group, because he had said he was one of Ted's #1 guys.
Right.
And so we start incorporating Ted Wong's footwork and stuff into what we teach. Bremer was real didn't care for it, but a lot of smaller guys need to be able to move.
Well, yeah,
I mean, not all opponents you have to be able to move.
Well, Bremer was never a small guy, right?
No.
Yeah. That thing that you said about if you're a Jeet Kune Do guy, why the faking and the feinting won't work. It was because of you. You know how sometimes when people do when they do the trapping, like they'll throw the punch and the guy will put his lead hand up and then they'll trap that lead hand and hit.
That's only done in practicing, learning how to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Attack.
Right. It was because of you that I stopped teaching it that way and added an explanation that this is against somebody who is not Jeet Kune Do trained.
Yeah, but see, that is okay. You got here. You go Paksa, right? Okay, fine. Then you start going the hand first. What that's all about is when let's say you're in a matching lead, when you punch, I cut into the tool and Paksa at that point. That's when I Paksa. Punch and then Paksa. Ever.
Yeah.
I Paksa on his punch.
Yeah.
And if he's unmatched, I cut it a tool this way and I don't worry about it.
The other thing,
It's very simple. In other words, when you do a leg obstruction, you just come down and take all the both hands down and just hit them. You know, it's all simple.
yeah, I heard this also, that Bremer, I think this was after you and Hartzell had done the trapping book, that Bremer pointed out that nobody was trapping the front leg or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he was, first thing he did was he'll kick you right in the nuts if you didn't do it.
Yeah. Interesting, because I don't think that lesson has been very well learned.
No, they forget about it.
Yeah, I don't see an emphasis on that. When you look around the YouTube, you know, at videos on trapping and what have you, a lot of people don't seem to have come across that. We
used to practice that, you know, when a guy pox out, you parry and kick the groin. That's Bremer worked with a lot on. As soon as somebody pops out, you parry and kick the groin.
Yeah. So here's another thing that came out of the questions. The Xingyi stuff. People wanted to know if you still practice any of that stuff.
I don't do the forms. The forms, they had to do kind of a breathing thing and all that stuff. But as soon as I could learn how to hit a focus glove, I could teach Xingyi, power Xingyi in like one lesson instead of the years I spent hitting the air, you know.
Okay.
But that's also a heavy blow. So there's a kind of a snappy Xingyi where it goes this way. I do that one, but most of it is hitting hard, and so it's too much time commitment. So I do it on a final movement.
Right, I see.
It's a finishing motion.
Yeah. When you talked about time commitment, I was thinking in terms of one of the questions that came in. Cesar Polyakov says that on page 3, you said to achieve maximum results, you should spend 80% of your time on the 20% that matters.
That's a theory. That's a theory that from some guy.
Right. That's the Pareto principle.
Yeah.
What they call the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
who invented that as a scientific thing for you learn stuff.
Yeah. So you said for our group, we try to use it to focus on the core techniques and principles of JKD. So Cesar wanted to know then what could be considered the core techniques.
Straight lead punch, your basic tools.
Yeah. Your
basic tools and how to use them. You know, like the triangle that Chris Kent came up with. You know, that how you go through the triangle and different. It's a learning triangle. You're familiar with it. The triangle is divided. In the bottom says stance and footwork.
Oh, okay.
Tool development, and then attack, counterattack, defense, and then tactics and strategy, then sparring.
Right.
So you go so you take your core techniques would be your basic tools, and how to use your basic tools.
Would you say that is something that ended up being de-emphasized in favor of adding on more and more stuff over the years?
Yeah, I started, well, what happened is when Burt and Bremer were together there, and I was learning all kinds of stuff from different people. I go and I'd show it, and they would say, Bremer would say, "Are you shitting me?" And this is what I would do if he did that. That's what I would do. And I could see this probably was not a good idea to do it. Just threw it away. People are afraid to throw things away. What happened, Dwight, to be honest with you, is when we worked it in the backyard, we would look at techniques from other arts and say, okay, this is what we would do. This is where it's open. This is where, you know, this is what you don't want to do. You know, like a block and hit, let's say, versus the simultaneous block and hit, or the hit and block, which is turn of letter. So it was an analysis. When I was learning education to become a school teacher, I read a guy named Neil Postman, who was an educator. He said the purpose of an education is to have a built-in bullshit detector. And that's what I tried to develop, a bullshit detector. And so it's when things go off of this basic principles that are in the book I wrote,
Mhm.
then you're probably in a little bit of a problem somehow. That you look at something and say, oh, that's, and what happens is then you go, let's say that a person, you're studying with a person and he's a teacher, and he goes off and he learns a different art and he starts sharing that art with you. What he's not sharing with you is what's wrong with that art, the good about it, what's bad about it.
Yeah.
So that happens over and over and over again because you can't put down your teacher.
Right.
So you lose the analysis.
Yeah. So, and also that's, you lose the honesty in it that should be involved.
But you're showing the respect for the other art, you see.
Right.
And
Yeah.
people say that if I find out what, no, you shouldn't be doing that, then you're putting the art down. So that I can understand both ways on that. But for me, and for our garage, because I didn't do it for a living, I never taught martial arts for a living, thank God. It didn't matter, if I had guys in the garage.
You think that's one of the reasons why some people do use that approach? It's like, well, I gotta have something to teach, and I need to keep people coming back.
There's that, but I think it's also the respect of also, you're also practicing what you're learning.
Yeah.
I know some guys who do a lot of that, practice what you're learning at the time, sharing it. But they would constantly say, what are you doing that for? And I kept thinking, okay, so why am I doing it? So I stopped doing it.
Yeah.
But you still have to learn certain things. You have to learn that you have to be able to avoid grappling or get it back on your feet. Burt Poe is very strong getting back onto your feet, but don't stay down on the ground. But try to avoid getting taken down. Learn how to do that. But hell, sometimes you're going to get taken down. Some of those guys are really good. So what's going
to happen? Yeah, right. It's going to happen.
I don't care what you say. Nobody, how good your footwork is or what's going to happen, you can end up on your ass. And you have to be able to deal with that. And so you have to do that. And you do with that. What is he offering you? You see, and what are you offering him?
Right. I think that
and then also the ring in the street. Here's a problem with that. I talk about ring in the street.
Yeah.
I mentioned that. I think I mentioned that in the book. The difference between the ring and street is not. It's not that you can. There's rules. None of that. That's not all. And there's no referee and all that stuff. The difference between the ring and the street is prior knowledge.
How do you mean?
Okay, if I'm going to be going to the ring, there's going to be video of you, of the opponent working. So I know he's a blocker, he's a runner, he does this. I can fake him. I can fake him because he runs.
Yeah.
In the street, you don't have a goddamn idea, so you don't do anything. You wait till they move and you leg obstruct them and hit them and knock them out.
Right.
You have to have enough power to do it. That's why. If your strong hand's not forward, if I can knock somebody out with either hand, doesn't matter which hand's forward, left or right. But my right is a lot stronger than my left in punching. And the point of it is you move and I want to knock you out. We do a lot of drills where the guy's coming at you with a focus glove and you hit it. And you try to get that 1-inch penetration perfect. And it sounds like a freight train hitting. When I did it to Cass, his eyes got real big because you actually do have enough knockout power to actually put the nose all over his face. But you're not going to do that as an attack. You're only going to do that as a defense.
Right.
To be able to control the distance, if I can, so I have time. See, that's about time. You have to step towards me to touch me. When you step towards me, I either leg obstruct you or as you're stepping forward, I intercept you.
Yeah.
Leg or a hand. The safest way is a leg obstruction.
Yeah. But see, you just went through, I mean, like an essential primer right there. Because you just gave examples of what core technique could be. Also, core attacking strategy, right? And it was born out of what? It was born out of being honest, and it was also born out of analysis. And a lot of that, I think, is what's missing in modern day Jeet Kune Do. Modern day Jeet Kune Do is now about adding a new series, on the focus mitt.
Bruce had a word for that: organized despair.
Yeah. I know somebody who's gonna be extremely happy when he hears that you said that. So a guy that lives in the valley.
Oh yeah.
That guy.
I don't know if you saw it. I did I met Matt Thornton, the guy that I did a thing for Burt Richardson, a really nice guy, Burt, and I showed him how to actually make trapping work, and I mean combat kind of trapping.
Right.
He told Matt, so Matt interviewed me, and he's a really nice guy.
Mhm.
Living in Portland, poor guy. So
Yeah.
Portland's a hell right now.
Yeah, that's tough.
But he's a good guy. But that whole trapping didn't work. Of course, trapping didn't work because people didn't know how to teach it.
Right.
But, it just not, the reference points are there to learn the reference points. After that, you've got the reference points alive.
Yeah. But again, it goes back to what you were saying about, if you got 100 people on a seminar,
Oh yeah, exactly.
you're right. I mean, you have to be really talented at crowd control if you're gonna be able to pull something like that off. Would you have a suggestion for somebody who does make his living teaching 100 people at a weekend seminar, how to stay close to the art?
Information, but you can give them the stuff so they could get somebody to work with them on. I worked with Bob Chapman every day, and because we would go there on Tuesday nights, and on Thursday nights was sparring night. Tuesday night was technique night, and then we would stop and eat dinner and stuff. And he would come by almost 3 or 4 other times a week. We would just train. He was left-handed, so it was a lot of my stuff was unmatched stance from the beginning because he was left-handed. And it was kind of interesting doing Kali with him a lot. It was kind of cool. His one was 2.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That I'll tell you this, right? And then you tell me if you ever got anything like that. That particular thing, his 1 was my 2. For me, the benefit of Kali was in understanding stuff like that, understanding how to see from another point of view.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the most important thing for me.
Yeah.
What would you say was the most important thing that you got out of the Filipino arts? Anything?
Yeah. Yeah, believe it or not, speed in my eyes. Speed, being able to see something fast,
right,
coming at you, and be able to react to it.
Interesting. Yeah. You mentioned sparring. Burt Richardson wanted
and also be able to understand knife fighting and flows and stuff, and all that's pretty decent stuff.
Yeah. Burt Richardson wanted you to talk about the importance of sparring in Jeet Kune Do.
Well, if you look at the triangle, it's at the top of the triangle.
Right.
And we sparred a lot, but we started off with just front hand only, just jab, or then different kinds. You had the different kinds of jabs. It wasn't necessarily straight lead. It was more of a snappy punch, moving around, doing that. And then we would add tools to it. Slowly start adding tools, and then you would do a lot of environmental training, a 2-on-1, 1-on-2, going through an alley, all of that stuff. It was very crucial to understanding what the hell, I sparred the first day I was there, with Dan Lee and Bremer.
Yeah.
And I did it fairly okay because we sparred a lot in my school. We sparred a lot in Taiwan. The Northern Chinese guys, they didn't, but my karate instructor, my Kung Fu instructor, one of my Xingyi instructors, he was the Japanese had the island for 50 years, so they were under he was a Kodokan judo teacher, and he gave belts out. And so we sparred a lot. That was the Japanese influence. We sparred pretty hard, actually. Interestingly enough, one of my teachers was a younger guy, and before I left, he wanted to spar with me, and he didn't have much of a chance
because
he doesn't spar. I took it easy on him, but it was fairly easy. But he had a ton of the techniques. He was great,
Right.
You could break stones and all this other stuff, but they didn't spar.
And put it in, then put it into practice.
Yeah. I don't know if they do much sparring anymore at different places or not, In fact, we've had guys come up to the garage, and we would say, okay, a couple of guys say we want to watch that and maybe spar later. I said, okay, fine. And Bremer said it would happen in Chinatown school. So they watch the training, and then they watch the thing, and then they turn around and be gone.
Right.
you know.
Yeah. I mean, anybody who shows up and says, well, I want to watch first and spar later.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
But a guy want to have his student, some kind of he was a fake Sealot guy, and he wanted to spar. He wanted him to spar, and so we try to be easy on him. Dennis Blue he was sparring with Dennis Blue and Jeremy.
well,
And
that's no fun.
yeah, then the guy would say, use wind, use it. They kept knocking him down. And the guy would say, no, use fire, use fire. He goes, oh, Jesus Christ,
Wow.
it's crazy.
So those kinds of people do actually exist.
They show up.
Wow. Well, now that's interesting. I mean, they have to have a certain amount of courage to show up, right?
Or stupidity.
Okay.
In this case, it was stupidity. Because he didn't know what he was doing,
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like I think out of China now, there's the famous MMA Chinese guy that's always fighting all these different masters from different styles.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen those.
Yeah.
I mean, but when it comes down to sparring, right? I mean, unless it's two like jujitsu people on the floor, when it comes down to sparring, isn't like the common denominator then moving and kicking and punching essentially?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I was gonna tell you a story. When we were at the martial arts academy in UC Irvine, where you were. Yeah. There was a guy. We had a little get together in my apartment, and Dan was there, and people were there, and there was the porch there, and this guy, I think Chris and Kaz were out on the porch, and Kaz they were like, my wife kind of treated like they were like mom, she was mom to them, kind of. They were young, and this guy comes up, and he was going to be under this instructor, and he had this kind of the real Wing Chun, the real thing. So he looks at, I'm out there, we're drinking a beer, and he looks at me, and he looks at Kaz, he looks at Chris, and he's, here, you stand up, let me show you that this is a student. He was the main student of this guy.
Yeah.
Let me show you the real Wing Chun. So he gets in the stand, he says, hit me. So I hit him like that. He said, wait a minute, again, hit me. So I hit him again, bam, like that. And he's, well, I would, and so, I just, it wasn't the hammer principle, actually, just I was fast enough.
Right, yeah.
I was too close to him. Didn't have to step forward. I just my body hit it. And so somebody said, Dan said, oh, Timmy shouldn't do that, but I love it. Kaz was there. He can tell you that story.
I'll ask him, because
He can also tell you the story because he saw that. They had a video of it. I never saw the video. I went to do a seminar in Athens, Greece the first time, and the instructor was a real nice guy, but he invited nothing but instructors. So it's a whole group of about 10 instructors of different stuff. So I'm showing how when you can take a guy on the left fleet, you take a rear-legged round kick, you can kick him in the groin, if you're fast enough. And some guy goes, let me see. He says something in Greece, and he gets a kind of a Shotokan stance. He comes with a big, one of the big roundhouse kicks. I kicked him right in the nuts, dropped him. And I just kind of walked away, and he said, it works. And Kaz saw that video. I never got a chance to see it. But you get those guys.
Yeah, that Wing Chun thing. Somebody wanted to know if you think that with the resurgence of with the Ip Man movies and what have you, I guess there's been a resurgence of popularity and interest in Wing Chun, and then of course Wing Chun benefits from its Bruce Lee connection.
Sure.
Right. Do you think that has come along and hurt the popularity of Jeet Kune Do or any?
I don't know. I deal too much with all that stuff. I know the Wing Chun's got a lot of good stuff in it. It's a good art. But as Bruce developed Jeet Kune Do, so they say because all the Wing Chun is what they say, but I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard from Wing Chun people that that amongst certain sects of Wing Chun, Bruce Lee was actually regarded pretty highly.
Yeah, Wang Leon, I really liked him. He was looking at him. I remember I was impressed watching him. He was the real thing, you know.
Yeah, well, he was a boxer also, right?
Yeah.
You know, so I find it interesting because a lot of people that I have spoken to have been impressed by Wang Chun, and I think it's interesting that he wasn't just like a pure Wing Chun guy.
Yeah,
you know, that he had. So
he could do it.
yeah, so I think that gives him
Francis is brilliant Wing Chun guy.
Mhm.
Francis Fong, I mean, he's great Wing Chun guy. He can really make it work. You know, that's what I say. You got to be able to make it work. Somebody can make it, somebody can't make it work.
Yeah, sometimes I think one of the best things that happened with Francis Fong was Dan Inosanto.
Yeah,
I think that Dan Inosanto really opened up his mind, you know, and took him in a direction where he could functionalize Wing Chun in a way that other people cannot if they try to stick, you know, to like the pure
using
thing.
the principles.
Right.
Using Jeet Kune Do principles.
Yeah, exactly.
Is
that
actually read the book yet?
well? So this is. I was just going to ask you because I noticed that, you know, they didn't. I kind of feel like the for all martial artists thing should have been in a bigger font.
Also, it should have been cheaper. It was too expensive.
Well,
it was. You don't make much off of Amazon.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's a Tim Tackett. Oh, you know, somebody wanted to know why your books are not digital. Why you can't find them in like the Kindle version and what have you. Do you have any control over that?
I never bothered with it.
Okay. Yeah.
Damn.
Well, yeah. But yeah, I found it interesting that the subtitle was, you know, for all martial artists.
Yeah, that's what my point was.
Right.
It should have been bigger.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, but to me, it doesn't matter.
Principles. If you're a grappling guy and you're thinking, what am I offering him?
Right.
That's whoa, okay, what am I offering this person at this point? You know, am I giving him his eyes? Like, what am I doing? And it makes you think about the technique you're doing. It's just simple thing like that.
Yeah, but see, the thing about the Wednesday night group is that you guys thought too much for the average practitioner. The average practitioner doesn't want to invest that amount of time into thinking and analysis.
Right.
You know, they want to be given a group of techniques, a set of techniques, and then just go off and train those. And it seems almost as if they want to go off and train them and try to train them exactly the way they were given the techniques.
Yeah.
You know, it's there's no striving to express oneself personally or anything.
No.
You know, what I got a question from Alex Hausman. He wanted to know how much of your classical upbringing is still present in your personal expression. I mean, I think I know the answer.
Not much.
Right. I could have told him that.
Some of the energy drills from Shingy and some drills from Tai Chi just to feel flow and motion. The Shingy palm hitting and palm hook and that kind of stuff is different. Like when you do the jut style, you know, I added, you know, you do the jut style. Okay, here you go. Boom. I go around here. I jut here, punch here. You know, that's BS. You don't do that. You learn how to jut down, but you jut and palm hook. Yeah. And the guy can't do anything about it.
Yeah. See, now that
very fast.
Right. See, now my good friend Gerard Joseph, who's he's actually a working actor in Hollywood. You probably love talking with him. He talks about that all the time when he's comparing. Now he's trained in a Bando derivative, and they talk about orbital striking, and it's a lot of what you just did, where you jutsu with that, but you hit with the same hand.
Yeah.
You know, they do a lot of that. So I think he'd be interested in that stuff.
Well, because when you jut and you try to hit, the guy's a good Wing Chun guy, he's 60. But if you jut and go to the hook, hit him every time.
Yeah. Alex again wanted to know about, have you ever used principles of Jeet Kune Do in drama class?
Yes, teaching. In fact, I wrote an article on that, using the principle of teaching drama, acting. It's an article in there in one of the, I think I put it online on my Facebook page once.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'll tell them to look for it. Do you think then that,
in other words, you learn a system, a method system, or this system or that system. So you, instead of that, you go on idea of the basic, get down to the basic. You play the verb, and you're acting. You're playing the verb. In other words, you pick a good, strong, active verb. Like you're angry, you're disappointed, you're this, you're that, you're that. You're playing that verb at the time. It's all kinds of ways of analyzing acting. Comes from what similar to doing Jeet Kune Do in a way. It's just principles, learning principles.
Do you know anything about Bruce Lee applying those ideas himself?
No.
No? I wonder. Is that an example then of, let's say, the non-technical or the non-physical application of Jeet Kune Do? Like more of a, I don't want to say a philosophical approach, but just Jeet Kune Do going beyond the physical.
Yeah, it's very much of a mental thing. It's an analytical thing. The book is analytical tools. That's what that book is.
Okay.
The book before that is essential tools. This one is essential principles to making it all work.
I was going to ask you if they were deliberately done that way. This one to show the physical aspects, and then this one to come and
you got it.
The governing principle. That's We'll see.
The importance is that little book.
Right. Yeah. Now, and I found that interesting too, right? That the more important book was the smaller one, because, unfortunately, I don't know if it's a generational thing or what have you, but a lot of people seem to be caught up in the idea of technique after technique after technique after technique. And I think that they would be disappointed if they spent time with some of the older school JKD people who are not at all about that, right? It's
exactly
a few core techniques that you make sure you have a high performance level.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, you try to deal with all situations, and you have to do it. It's like the dumb thing about JKD being made up of 27 martial arts, whatever the hell that is. What I was looking through Dan's notes. This is before Paul even, and I saw these things. What's this? And it was like white eyebrow kung fu and Xing Yi and everything else. He said, "Oh, Bruce looked at these arts to see how they entered, to see if what they offered him, and if he could deal with it."
Yeah,
that was it. Okay, that was made up of 27 martial arts. Okay.
Right.
I said, "Dan, I have Xing Yi and no Xing Yi in JKD."
All right. So let's start to wrap and say your good friend Rob Roy McGregor says,
"Oh yeah, great guy, tough guy. He's a tough dude. He's a bad dude."
Yeah, as soon as he was like the first person to reach out to me when I announced that you were coming on. And
he's a great friend. He's a great martial artist. We seem to my garage attracted a lot of guys like that.
Yeah.
Sonny, Burt, Jim Sewell. Jim Sewell was a handful.
Well,
he got in a fight in a gas station when he was 60. The guy.
Man.
Yeah. A guy attacked him, and the guy jumped into a karate set, went to kick him, and he leg obstruction and knocked him out.
Wow. Yeah. So here's what Rob Roy wanted to know. what brought on a passion for martial arts to a hot rodder from Riverside, California in the 1950s?
Well, there was a thing called the car clubs and gang fights. Lee Ray's song "Rumble" was for a reason. There were some rumbles every now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had guys coming in from the Raiders, from San Bernardino, and different gangs and stuff. They had Street Angels, and I was in the Hustlers for a while.
Yeah. Huh.
Car club, you had car club jackets and stuff. It's like those movies, Rebel Without a Cause.
Okay.
It was a great time, man. We invented rock and roll. Rock and roll started by listening to this rhythm and blues station. All of a sudden, I'm listening to Howlin' Wolf and stuff. And I was, God, yeah, this stuff's good. And then all of a sudden, rock and roll. Chuck Berry comes along, and it was a crazy time. And there's so much. Everything was so uniquely different. You had Little Richard, you had Fats Domino, you had Elvis, you had all these people. You had the doo-wop groups. It was heaven for music. And the '60s were great too. My college years were the '60s. It was all a hell of a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So I'm scanning through the stuff here just to make sure that I don't leave anybody out. Did Dan Lee's Jeet Kune Do differ greatly?
His was very boxing oriented. He was he was really good at broken rhythm. He was excellent at broken rhythm and timing and boxing, and he was a handful. Dan said that he and Bremer had some fights. They would just Bremer was kind of guy. If you hit Bremer, he would hit you back as hard as you hit him. Dan Lee liked to hit you hard. Okay, it's the difference between the two.
Yeah.
Bremer was a little more gentlemanly about it, but if you hit him, boom. I had some stories with Bremer when guys would come in, and he would be the guy that they would spar sometimes. Mr. Philadelphia, that was one of them.
Well, one of my
and blasted him into the wall.
Yeah, one of my agent students wants to know if you've done anything over the years to modify your training, as the years go by.
Well, yeah. You try to be more efficient. So I can still do some of it.
Yeah. Hey, Inosano's on the road again, I've noticed. Is anybody going to be able to talk you out of retirement?
Pardon? Oh, no way. I'm getting ready to move to North Carolina with our daughter.
Okay.
I got a great grandson there. I got I've got 3 grandkids here. But no, my youngest Tackett granddaughter moved to Idaho. My other one is he was out of the Navy intelligence, and now he's in college. His wife's a nurse, and then when he gets out, he's going to work for somewhere in Colorado Springs for either the National Security Agency or something like that. He's a intelligence analyst. He's actually been able to major in that in college here, communication technology and intelligence at Cal State San Bernardino. Get his degree, and then I'll do that. And my other oldest Tackett grandson, he's going to be living in my house because the house is all paid for.
Okay.
And we're adding an addition onto my daughter's house because all I have is just him. He's they both have their masters. He's teaching at more school, and she's teaching. They're both teachers, and it's just them.
Right.
And I've got 4 grandkids back there, and I get where I need to be taken care of now. My wife there at the age where I need to be taken care of.
Okay.
Her husband's a doctor, so Medina doctor.
So our mutual good friend Cass Magda said, Dwight, you don't want to ask him this, but I think I will. You brought up family, and from the personal posts that I've seen you put up from time to time, in the Jeet Kune Do world, when I came in '83, if you ever heard about the wife, it was always the wife who trained. So Cass has Eleanor, Inosano has Paula. You always heard about that.
Except his first wife didn't train.
Right. But you have been able to sustain a relationship with a wife who didn't train. And I think there's a lot that a lot of us could learn from you about that, because
Marry a Cajun. She's just something else. She's always was strong and sweet and nice. You know, she's a very nice person. She's a nice lady. She's a classy lady. She grew up poor in the bayous of Louisiana. You know.
Yeah. Well, I know Kath loves her to death. I mean,
Everybody does.
we talked to
She's a special woman. And I didn't do this for a living. You know, I helped put me through college a little bit. You know, but I never did much money. I made money doing seminars, but it was just fun. You know.
Right.
Didn't do it for the money.
Yeah.
I had a job teaching. I've got a very good retirement. I get my health care forever. My wife and I's health care forever. School district pays for that. So, you know, I'm in pretty good shape for, you know, an old dude like that.
Nice.
And, you know, Jim Sewell, he ended up just on Social Security. Del Pollard just ended up on that. A lot of people just ended up on barely getting by, you know. And you know, I don't know if I'd have just done martial arts for a living, whether I would have be the same way, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough nut to crack, right? It's
well, the thing is, I've always been happy. I don't have to deal with assholes. You know, deal with them. Yeah, you know, assholes teach students. If you got to have enough people there. Sometimes you get assholes, you know.
It's true. It's quite true.
Assholes.
Yeah. All right.
With them.
Okay. On that note, thank you very much.
Anybody learn anything?
They will. And if they didn't, they're dummies.
Okay.
Right. Okay. But I'll go through the comments and I'll see if anybody needs. In fact, you know, if you got a couple more, let me see if I can.
No, I've got time. I'm not in a hurry. What time is it?
Okay. It's what, 4:30?
I'm cool.
All right. Okay. Let me see if anybody brought anything in. A Keith Allen story.
Oh, Keith. Keith was a good guy.
Yeah.
I like Keith.
I remember.
Keith
I remember. Yeah, I remember reaching out to him, and but then I didn't hear back, and then, you know,
I went and worked in the ring for one of his fighters, and I was over there. I was a special guest of the Wounded Warriors. I had to talk to them and stuff, and somewhere out in that area, you know, at a casino, you know, boxing thing.
Yeah,
and it was he was a great guy, very intense, very, very talented, and loyal. You know, I ended up getting really, really good people, and the garage really attracted some. I mean, you know, you think of who was in a garage. You know, you had Jim Sewell, our shooting instructor, ex-SEAL. What the hell's his name? Anyway, I forgot. I'm getting old. Yeah. Jim Sewell. You had Bob. You had Burt. You had Sonny Bygum. You had Lloyd Kennedy. We had Jeremy. You have Dennis. Dennis is a Green Beret. He's just got a Silver Star. What his thing was, one of his missions, I guess, when he was in his in the Special Forces, was in Central America. They declassified the missions. I guess people in the mission got a Silver Star. My brother had a Bronze Star in Vietnam. He was a weatherman. How did a weatherman get a Bronze Star? He had a one-man weather station in Laos.
You know who is Brent Lance is one of your guys.
Yes,
he's phenomenal.
He's also very, 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 very smart.
He's phenomenal. I've tried to get him on the show because he's the kind of intellect that I just have the best time talking with somebody who's, you know.
He's the real thing.
Yeah.
I've known him, worked with him since he was 12 years old.
Yeah.
He was fighting in tough man competitions when he was like 14. He's a tough guy, but he's also very, very smart. He was taken, you know, really heavy science classes, taking 2 or 3 at a time, you know, and
Mhm.
straight A's. And got a scholarship in Arizona. Went there, didn't like the school, and quit. And then he went back and I guess he went to the Appalachian State. Now he's a science teacher, and he
Yeah.
understands kinesiology like crazy.
Yeah. What's your favorite memory of Smoky Mountain?
Burt, hanging out with Burt and let him tell his stories, you know.
Yeah.
Teaching guys that, you know, teaching CIA dudes and stuff and talking to
Yeah.
them, you know. And
What did a guy like that think of like when you guys first saw like Ajahn Chai and the Muay Thai or what have you?
we did what?
What
they-
what the Thai boxing?
They can respect the Thai boxing for sure.
Mhm.
The tools are there. It's a simplified kind of thing. How many different tools do you have, you know?
Yeah.
And that's
Right.
why they're so good at what they do.
Interesting, you know, because I used to say that about Muay Thai a long time ago, that if the Bruce Lee directive was simple, direct, and efficient, I would say that Thai boxing would fit into that because
Yeah.
there's not a whole lot of variety of technique.
That's why we took what was valuable out of it. We
Right.
thought, you know, the knees and elbows. I had knees and
Mhm.
elbows from Kung Fu, but the knees and elbows were, I think, better in Thai boxing.
Yeah,
I like a couple of the kicks, really good,
yeah, yeah.
but not on the first move.
That's important, I think. That's important, right?
But only for fighting a JKD guy, though, that intercepts.
Mhm. I found out through James Bishop that in the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, where it says there's not a lot of direct attack in Jeet Kune Do, that actually comes out of I think out of Hazlitt's boxing book.
Probably.
But that's what when you, so I remembered that when you said earlier, we don't attack,
Right.
you know, right? But I don't know if a lot of
You're
people
offering-
understand
you're
that.
offering something. As soon as you attack, you're offering something.
Right. I don't know if a lot of people understand that because, you know, well, Jeet Kune Do is famous for having the
Watch-
5 ways of
watch,
attack.
Long Street.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
You move, you step towards me, and I intercept your attack.
right.
You can Okay.
Yeah,
there.
you know, it's like, it's almost like the knowledge is out there, but I think with the passage of time, it's become a little bit clouded, you know, there's been a like some stuff has been emphasized and then we have all the different sects of Jeet
People
Kune
ask
Do.
me about that. I haven't been around to different. Only thing I've ever visited is Eric Paulson, and
Right.
I just don't. I don't know what people are doing in JKD or not. You know, I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing that that comes up all the time. It's been promoted this way, that almost to the extent that Jun Fan is something separate from Jeet Kune Do. That
Really?
that Jun Fan is the base art, and so you study that. But Jeet Kune Do is this thing that you use to develop yourself.
Let me go back. Let's go back into history here a little bit. Okay, got some
Mhm.
time. When we were doing the backyard thing, I got a certificate. They made a cop. After Bruce died, Dan copied the certificate for the Jeet Kune Do school that Bremer had. We have in our garage.
Mhm.
Every one of them is a Jeet Kune Do certificate because it says this is somebody who was learning the curriculum from the Chinatown school, which was Jeet Kune Do. It wasn't called anything else. Jeet Kune Do,
Mhm.
nothing else. So we started the Kali Academy, and Dan had made that promise with Bruce Lee, you know, and about the started. So he started off with 4 phases, and then you had the Jeet Kune Do class. Those 4 phases were called Jun Fan. You go through the 4 phases, and you get voted into Jeet Kune Do class. But it was the same stuff. It was just more of the seminar kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The JKD class was the bangers.
Was the application of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been fighting an uphill battle to get people to understand that. But again,
It's Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah.
Jeet Kune Do. That's what it is.
yeah, I think that you know, it's a statement that's been made,
Jun
but
Fan was never an art.
right.
never taught us an art. There was no art June Penn. It's like saying we're studying Bruce Lee.
Right.
Bruce Lee.
Yeah. Yeah.
His name.
Well, okay. Well, hopefully you have straightened that out for a lot of people, because I haven't been successful in getting them to understand that differentiation. That there is no differentiation, I should
Right.
say. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no secret Jeet Kune Do techniques.
Mhm.
You could those are throwing away some of the stuff you're learning in the phase
Yeah.
1, 3, and 4.
Hey, okay. So since you have time, let's name drop. Right. Tell me what you think about that guy Cass Magda.
I think Kaz is great. He took the leg obstruction and ran with it. You know, and he has some good guys. I still the guy in England was so good. You know.
Oh, Carnell.
Yeah, Dave, great
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I liked him.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
That guy Chris Ken.
He's a good instructor. He's a very good teacher. Very good
Mhm.
teacher.
Mhm.
He
I
can-
love
he
his
can-
writing
he can
also.
explain it. And he can do it.
Uh-huh.
I worry sometimes about so much on not Chris, but people focusing so much on feigning and faking. You know, I mean, remember, Jesus Christ, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, your boom, he's all
mean-
over you. You go to feign something, he was all
Right.
over you.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that has its place in, like, the competition arena or what have you, but how much feinting and faking are you gonna do if you gotta get the job done quickly,
Yeah.
you know?
I'll tell you a story. I learned this from Nicholas Hughes. I did this at Paulson School. You take a guy with a focus glove. He holds a focus glove like this. Okay, you got a guy punching the focus glove as hard as he can. He's pissed off with his focus glove. There's another guy that's pissed off with his focus glove. So you start hitting the focus glove. He comes and he throws you out of the way. You start hitting. He starts hitting the focus glove. You grab him and pull him back. You start hitting the focus glove. So I ask these guys, how good shape are you in? How many rounds can you do? I could do a 5-minute round real easy. Okay, let's do this. After a minute and a half, they were dead. That's combat.
Yeah.
And that is an absolutely great thing to make. You can't breathe. You're not breathing right. You're not moving around. You're just punching, and it exhausts you.
Mhm.
That's combat. And that I learned that was from Nick Hughes. What a
Mhm.
great drill that is, man.
Yeah. And I just think that you know,
What is that drill more than just a principle, right?
right.
It's got
Yeah.
a technique.
Yeah. So everything that you need is already in the art. Would you say there's no need to go outside the art?
Well, I think
Everything.
grappling has to be acknowledged, you know.
Okay. Would you say then that was an element that was not as comprehensive?
Yeah, we hardly did any. There was a few throws, a few locks and stuff. But yeah, I just think it's something that you wake up to that fact. And Burt was real good at that. You know, he was a nasty dude, so he did some nasty stuff.
Mhm. Yeah. I just wonder why because it seems as if some people are on this path that, well,
I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you a JKD story. It's not a JKD story. A friend of mine named Jerry Higgins. Jerry Higgins was a guy. He was about 5'10", maybe 160 pounds. Went to high school with. He was a place called Okieville, which is like a lot of these people came out in the 30s, to pick crops and stuff. They had this old group there called Okieville, and he was so tough. I mean, he would take you to bite chunks out of your face. He actually was. Well, I had a friend, Manuel Gonzalez, who just recently passed away. We had a car club at Manuel's house, and all of a sudden, these motorcycles show up, and it says some Hell's Angels from Fontana, and they want to see Manuel. Manuel's been disrespecting one of our women. So Jerry Higgins goes out, and the guy says, "Listen," Jerry said, "Listen, I'll fight any one of you, and if I win, you leave Manuel alone." So he went bam, 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 and beat the hell out of this guy called Tank. Hey, Tank, He just beat him up in about 5 seconds. You know, he's just a bad dude.
Yeah.
Bite chunks out of your face. He was just a killer dude. So he ended up being a sheriff, and he was shot in the back, kind of wounded, and he was paralyzed from the chest down. And before we were in high school, a friend of mine almost got in a fight with him, and he's so afraid he joined the Navy. So we have a party every year with all my friends from Redlands High School, and this guy's there, and Jerry Higgins shows up, and he's in a wheelchair. And okay, a little bit of language here, but he comes up and he goes, Jerry, remember that time that, you know, we almost got in that fight? And he goes, how about right now, motherfucker?
Man.
That's what he was my instructor in attitude.
Right. Yeah. You know, listen, I'll tell you, the people that you hung up with, I'm really glad you survived this long, because my God.
I mean, I can't. He was just that. He was serious too.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Did Bruce Lee have that side? Did Bruce Lee have that kind of attitude?
Yeah, turn it on, turn it off, like a light
Right.
bulb. That's what I would do with coaching football. You guys doing all this jumping around. What are you blowing all your adrenaline for?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you go to if you go and see two boxers in the waiting, you see one boxer taking a nap and you see one pacing. You vote for the guy who's taking the nap. Okay, this other guy blew all his energy.
Right.
The first fights, by the first 4 or 5 fights, are meaningless because you have to learn how to control that adrenaline stuff.
Right.
You have to be able to turn it on and turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, and that's what that Dick Hughes class lesson thing is all turned on constantly.
Mm-hmm.
What that does to you physically.
Yeah. Hey, since you're talking about that turn on, turn off thing, let's do another name drop. That guy, Paul Vunak.
Oh yeah, that Paul was kind of cool.
Yeah.
He was an interesting guy.
Yeah.
He was like a little kid, you know. He was like he and the 3 little boys and my wife. You know, they were always in our apartment. You know,
Mm-hmm.
missing their mom, and there was mom. You know,
Right. Yeah.
you
Burt
met
Richards.
Mom. You know, she's something special.
Yeah. Burt Richardson.
Bert's a great guy. He's a good. He can do it. He can do it, and he can teach it. And he understands it, and he's open. He's open to having me come over there and show. Well, yeah, your trapping does work. You know, they were all that. Well, trapping didn't work yet for a while. Everybody was on that. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but a few months ago, Paulson did some trapping stuff, and I made a comment because, like, I wasn't happy seeing it, and not that Eric isn't skillful, but he doesn't need it.
Right, right.
Eric Paulson doesn't need to show. So really, it was just, well, oh, okay, now we know that Paulson knows Lap Sao Guachoy, right?
Yeah.
Now we know, but I don't need to see him doing that, because he can do much more than that.
Yeah, yeah, you can do a lot. That's for sure.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
So have me come there and teach. I taught some of his guys. He brought me to teach one of those Shamrock, help teach Shamrock for his fight.
Yeah. Do you know? Well, yeah, of course you know him. The Minnesota kid, Greg Nelson.
Oh, Nelson, Greg,
yeah,
Greg all the time there. Yeah, the two of us, Rick Fay and Greg.
Rick Fay and Greg Nelson. Yeah, well,
Rick was in my class at California Martial Arts Academy.
Yep. Yeah.
Great guys, both of them.
The two of them, man, they were fearsome. Those two, they were two of the most impressive for me in my early days.
Oh yeah.
You know,
about it. Yeah.
Very, very, very impressive. All right. Well, listen,
He used to come and train in my garage, but he was living in Palm Springs when he first came out. You know, he was a student under Rick.
Yeah. I remember once being out in LA at the Inasano Academy, and I saw definitely one of them was Dennis Blue.
Yeah.
But I don't remember who the other guys were, but they came to train with Eric. They came to do like a shoot wrestling thing, private lesson or something with Eric.
Probably.
Yeah, and yeah. All right, well, I'm being signaled that it's 7:45 and that I gotta run, so.
All right, you run. Take
All
it
right,
easy.
yeah, man, isn't it impressive that you have more stamina for doing an interview than I do?
Old
Well,
age.
listen, yeah, well, listen, thank you so much. I really appreciate your spending some time here with me.
All right, you take it easy, my man.
All right, okay, take
See
care.
you.
All righty,
Bye.
bye.
I can read this thing.
Yeah, me too.
Let me get my glasses on. Shit.
Voglio condividere con voi alcune delle principali idee del Jeet Kune Do. Gli errori che si fanno frequentemente nella pratica delle prese sono questi. Di solito, quando si allenano le prese, le si fanno in movimento. Ecco la forma corretta. Un altro errore tipico è questo. Bisogna farlo mantenendo le braccia completamente attaccate al corpo. Vedete il suo braccio? Non è totalmente attaccato al suo corpo. Questo non è il modo corretto di esecuzione, eppure si tratta di un errore molto comune. Adesso, se lui tenta di afferrare il mio braccio in questo modo qua, ecco cosa succede. Lui sta lasciando uno spazio nel suo attacco, perché il braccio non è posizionato nel modo giusto. Dunque, quando farete una presa, dovrete eseguirla correttamente. Un altro concetto del Jeet Kune Do è che la nostra struttura difensiva deve essere completamente rassicurata nel momento della presa. Ho visto molte persone che iniziano una presa in questo modo. Evidentemente, questa non è una distanza di piede, ma di pugno. Quindi, se lui fa una presa così, io potrò fare questo. Lui lascia il suo inguine senza protezione. Dunque, nel momento della presa, dovrete afferrare la gamba e il braccio contemporaneamente. Dopodiché, potrete passare a un altro tipo di prese. Ecco i punti importanti da afferrare. Parleremo delle distanze piede-pugno. Con BUG, per esempio, ci troviamo in apparenza in una distanza di piede, ma come vedete si può trattare anche di una distanza di pugno. Dunque, anche in questa distanza possiamo toccare con la mano. Allora, è una distanza di pugno o di piede? E qua, una distanza di pugno o di gomito? Sono anche a una distanza di piede. Dunque, non pensate in termini di distanza, ma domandatevi se in distanze lunghe siete capaci di colpire con il pugno o al contrario. Quello che non potete fare è limitare la vostra mente e dirvi che non potete colpire in una distanza lunga e a rovescio. Molte persone non si sentono sicure nei confronti del jet tech, il colpo di piede laterale contro la tibia e l'ostruzione della gamba. Ci sono due idee principali. Non consideriamo questo un bersaglio da colpire. Non colpisco troppo forte. Questo sarebbe un colpo di piede laterale contro la tibia difficile da bloccare. Per eseguirlo, non faccio che un colpo di piede laterale basso, che potrei finire con l'introduzione delle dita dentro gli occhi o semplicemente con un altro spostamento indietro. Se lui tenta di attaccarmi o se entra nella mia distanza, discendo con un colpo di pugno. Adesso un'ostruzione di gamba è un po' differente. A Bruce piaceva farla così. Proprio nel momento in cui l'avversario entrava, Lui faceva così, ma si fermava a un lato per poter colpire buttando il peso di tutto il suo corpo, così. Questo lo si può applicare come un attacco. Dando un colpo di piede, controllo le sue azioni bloccandole. Questa mano mi protegge dai suoi pugni e allora io sono libero e posso abbatterlo afferrandolo e colpendolo. Se lui mi attacca con un jab, io posso anche utilizzarlo per la mia difesa. Posso dunque usarlo nelle azioni di difesa e di attacco. Anche se lui mi attacca con un colpo di piede, io posso frenarlo. Se fermo il movimento della sua gamba, sto facendo un'ostruzione di gamba. Se lo fermo nel suo attacco, si tratta di Jet. Nel Jeet Kune Do ci sono due modi di colpire: il colpo percuotente, snap in inglese, e il colpo pesante. Sono due buone maniere di colpire e hanno dei vantaggi. Bisogna dunque impararle tutte e due. A Bruce piacevano soprattutto i colpi percuotenti per la loro velocità, ma per eseguirli è necessario essere posizionati in una distanza determinata. Per esempio, per eseguire un colpo di pugno percuotente bisogna soprattutto non posizionarsi troppo vicino. Questo braccio deve lanciarsi dritto e la penetrazione del colpo di pugno non sarà che di 3 centimetri più o meno. Ecco un colpo di pugno percuotente. Il pugno lo si leva proprio nel momento dell'impatto, affondando correttamente per evitare una lesione al pugno. Nel colpo di pugno pesante si deve utilizzare il palmo della mano. Ecco un esempio. La distanza sarà più corta e il colpo penetrerà nel bersaglio. Si tratta di colpire solo attraverso il bersaglio, come qua. Ecco la differenza fra un colpo percuotente e un colpo pesante. Una delle principali tecniche del Jeet Kune Do è il jab con le dita. Questa tecnica è così importante perché noi possiamo usarla contro un avversario che sia grande, forte o muscolato. Per il momento non è possibile sviluppare i muscoli degli occhi. Non ci resta che un tipo di mandibola potente che sia capace di sopportare un colpo di pugno e che sia in grado di continuare a battersi con il naso rotto o con un colpo controlinguine. Se si colpiscono gli occhi con le dita, è possibile che lui attacchi ancora, ma lo farà senza visione. Questa è la questione per la quale lo si considera così importante, e questo proviene dalla scherma occidentale, un tipo di influenza occidentale che ispira i principi della scherma. L'idea, con la guardia sinistra, che è la più utilizzata, bisogna penetrare la sua guardia e colpirlo negli occhi prima che lui se ne renda conto. Un'altra idea molto importante quando qualcuno ti attacca è fermare il suo colpo. È quello che viene chiamato un movimento passivo. Se lui mi attacca, io schivo il primo colpo e il secondo. Sono dei movimenti passivi perché stiamo tentando di fermare l'altro al più presto possibile. Allora, quando si attacca, quello che ci deve interessare è la difesa. Difendersi è meglio che bloccare. Dunque, possiamo utilizzare il jab di dita per attaccare o per difenderci. È una tecnica molto importante per il Jeet Kune Do. Gli occhi sono il nostro principale obiettivo. L'inguine e il ginocchio sono i bersagli principali in Jeet Kune Do. In questi ultimi tempi ci siamo concentrati molto sulla difesa contro un praticante di Jiu-Jitsu. Se lui mi attacca, lui deve assolutamente percorrere una distanza e scopriamo che l'uso delle dita per attaccare i suoi occhi è efficace. Se lui mi attacca, io posso frenarlo con il jab di dita. Se è più vicino a me, gli posso fare così. Una tecnica molto usata dai praticanti di Jiu-Jitsu, dai boxer e i judoka, è quella di atterrare prendendo una sola gamba. È veramente tipico. Se qualcuno si lancia contro di te per buttarti a terra, la cosa più importante è riconoscere le parti del suo corpo non protette. La prima cosa che pensiamo è di bloccarlo con le ginocchia quando lui si lancerà contro di noi. È un errore grave che ti può far perdere l'equilibrio. Inoltre, può darsi che lui sia così agitato da non sentire il colpo. Per altri sarebbe possibile colpire sulla schiena, ma sarebbe necessario essere molto precisi e non penso che così potremmo fermarlo. Quello che gli possiamo fare è mettere le dita negli occhi mentre facciamo l'attacco. Così lui lascia delle parti senza protezione. Ecco perché se qualcuno tenta di abbattere un altro prendendolo per una gamba, si può agire così. Se lui si avvicina molto e non vogliamo utilizzare le dita per ragioni etiche, possiamo colpirlo con il palmo della mano. Sarà così. Ecco 2 tecniche che possiamo utilizzare. Un'altra possibilità contro un attacco. Immaginiamo, per esempio, un poliziotto che non vuole essere molto violento. Lui potrà eliminare l'energia facendo pressione sul gomito. Potrà usare anche la testa per abbatterlo. Se non si protegge la testa, la si può afferrare girandola e proiettandola all'infuori, ma facendo attenzione soprattutto a non rompergli il collo. Oppure, quando l'altro tenta di abbattermi, io lo afferro in questo modo, stringendo la sua testa. Con questa mano controllo il suo braccio, perché non possa colpire il mio inguine, mentre io giro verso l'alto per rompergli il collo.
Se Bruce fosse ancora vivo, cosa direbbe rispetto alla situazione attuale del Jeet Kune Do?
Cosa direbbe? Non lo posso dire qua. Imparare il Jeet Kune Do non vuol dire che si parte alla ricerca delle conoscenze o dei modelli stilizzati, ma significa che dobbiamo sforzarci nella scoperta delle cause dell'ignoranza.